The crystalline spires of Zartik's diplomatic complex rose like frozen lightning against the planet's perpetual twilight. Holographic projections danced between towering pillars, casting ethereal shadows across the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. At the center of the Grand Chamber, the Galactic Council's central platform hummed with barely contained tension. Dr. Elena Rodriguez sat at the periphery, her posture relaxed yet alert. A single human among hundreds of alien delegates, she appeared almost inconsequential. Her dark skin and crisp diplomatic uniform stood in stark contrast to the bizarre and magnificent beings surrounding her. A slight smile played at the corners of her mouth, a smile that would have unnerved anyone perceptive enough to notice its calculating edge. The Vorlak ambassador took center stage, his translucent tentacles undulating with each gesture. Massive holographic displays behind him flickered to life, showing historical records of human conflicts. Scenes of Earth's past wars played out in brutal montage. Grainy footage of global confrontations, technological destructions, and moments of human violence. The data is irrefutable, the Vorlak diplomat proclaimed, his universal translator rendering his words in perfect clinical standard galactic. Humans demonstrate an unprecedented capacity for self-destruction. Their history is a continuous narrative of conflict, of technological advancement, driven by the most base instincts of aggression and territorial dominance. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Delegates from 100 star systems leaned forward, their various sensory appendages twitching with a mixture of fascination and revulsion. The holographic display shifted, showing a rapid sequence of human technological milestones. Each breakthrough was accompanied by contextual images of conflict. Nuclear development alongside images of devastating weapons, internet communication juxtaposed with propaganda campaigns, space exploration set against military satellite deployments. Ambassador Krelnax of the Quantum Confederacy leaned toward his neighbor, mandibles clicking softly. "They are children playing with antimatter," he whispered, knowing full well the universal translators would capture his words. Dangerous, unpredictable. Elena Rodriguez remained motionless, her eyes never leaving the display. She knew exactly what was happening. A carefully orchestrated performance designed to marginalize humanity in the eyes of the galactic community. Each carefully selected image was a calculated stroke, painting humans as violent, primitive, unworthy of true galactic membership. What the other delegates didn't see were the nuances, the humanitarian efforts hidden between war footage, the scientific breakthroughs born from collaborative research, the countless moments of human compassion that never made such dramatic displays. The Vorlak ambassador concluded his presentation with a dramatic flourish. The recommendation of the Xenological Assessment Committee is clear. Humanity must be contained, restricted, monitored. Their potential for destruction is too great to be allowed unrestricted galactic access. A momentary silence fell over the chamber. Hundreds of alien representatives exchanged knowing glances, various appendages and sensory organs indicating agreement. Elena Rodriguez stood slowly. Her movement was so quiet, so unexpected, that it took several moments for the chamber to realize she intended to speak. The universal translators hummed to life, waiting to capture her response. Her voice was calm, measured, each word selected with surgical precision. "Interesting presentation," she began, but somewhat incomplete. The chamber fell absolutely silent. The research outpost on Nova Horizon was nothing extraordinary, at least not to the casual observer. A small collection of modular habitats nestled against the rocky terrain of a frontier planet. It represented humanity's continued push into unexplored galactic regions. 5 researchers moved through their daily routines, completely unaware that their lives were about to change the course of interstellar diplomacy. Captain Vorlax of the Krexian survey vessel, Stellar Mapper 427, reviewed the standard mapping protocols with minimal interest. Mapping uncharted systems was routine work, a task typically assigned to junior navigators seeking to build their career credentials. His 6-armed form shifted slightly in the command chair, tentacle-like appendages interfacing with the ship's navigation systems. "Initiating sector scan," announced the junior navigation officer, her voice crisp and professional. Holographic displays flickered to life, mapping the intricate topography of the planetary surface below. What should have been a routine geographical survey quickly became anything but routine. A slight miscalculation, a fraction of a degree in navigation, a momentary lapse in the ship's quantum positioning system. Such tiny errors would mean nothing in most circumstances, but on this day, in this moment, they would become the catalyst for an unprecedented galactic incident. The Kryxian vessel's advanced scanning beam, powerful enough to penetrate planetary surfaces and map geological structures, struck the Nova Horizon research station with devastating precision. The research habitats vaporized instantly. 5 lives, 5 human researchers, disappeared in a moment of technological miscalculation. What the Kryxian captain didn't know was that every single piece of equipment at the research station was recording. Every system, every backup, every redundant network was capturing data. The moment of destruction was not just witnessed, it was documented with scientific precision. Deep within human communication networks, the first signals of the incident began to propagate. Not panicked messages, not emotional outbursts. Instead, a calm, methodical collection of data began to move through highly sophisticated intelligence channels. Dr. Marcus Chen, head of the Interstellar Incident Response Team, received the first preliminary report exactly 17 minutes after the destruction. His team was already in motion before the official communication channels could process the initial information. Correlate all available data, he instructed a room full of analysts. Holographic displays filled with information. Trajectory calculations, quantum positioning logs, communication records, historical Kryxian survey mission data. Each piece of information was cross-referenced, analyzed, and contextualized with machine-like efficiency. The Kryxian leadership expected a predictable response. They anticipated either total submission or an emotional, ineffective military reaction. Humans had a reputation for volatility, after all. Their historical conflicts suggested they would respond with immediate, potentially self-destructive aggression. They were wrong. Within hours, a comprehensive data package emerged. It wasn't just a simple report of the incident. It was a meticulously constructed analysis that revealed not just the technical details of the attack, but the complex network of Kryxian corporate and military connections that made the accidental destruction possible. Quantum encrypted communication channels began to activate. Not military channels, not diplomatic channels, but economic and information networks that would prove far more devastating than any traditional form of retaliation. The Kryxian leadership would soon learn that humanity's approach to conflict was nothing like they had anticipated. This was not about destruction. This was about precision. This was about transformation. And it was only the beginning. The first wave of human response arrived not with missiles or warships, but through the most intricate of networks. Economic channels that pulsed with digital precision across galactic communication systems. In a nondescript operations center buried deep beneath the Pacific, a team of economists, data analysts, and strategic planners worked with surgical concentration. Dr. Yuki Nakamura led the team, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that mapped global and interstellar economic networks with breathtaking complexity. Target their tertiary support systems, she instructed a group of specialists. It wasn't a call to arms, but a calculated dismantling of economic infrastructure. Kryxian trade routes began to experience unexplained disruptions. Quantum communication relays suddenly found themselves experiencing microscopic interference, not enough to completely shut down, but sufficient to create uncertainty. Financial algorithms detected subtle shifts in trading patterns that made Kryxian corporate investments suddenly appear unstable. The Kryxian Stellar Consortium, a massive corporate governmental hybrid that controlled significant portions of galactic trade, first noticed something was wrong when their standard supply chain algorithms began generating anomalous predictions. Predictive models that had been reliable for centuries suddenly became unreliable, creating waves of uncertainty that rippled through their entire economic ecosystem. Diplomatic channels between human representatives and Crixian leadership maintained a veneer of absolute professionalism. Each communication was precisely worded, technically perfect, yet carrying undertones that suggested deeper consequences waiting just beneath the surface. What made the human strategy so devastating was its precision. This wasn't about destruction. It was about strategic deconstruction. Every move was calculated to create maximum uncertainty with minimal direct intervention. Communication networks began to experience subtle redirections. Crixian data streams found themselves routed through alternative pathways that seemed completely legitimate but introduced microscopic delays and potential information distortions. These were not hacks or attacks, but strategically placed interventions that created growing doubt. Corporate partnerships that had existed for generations suddenly found themselves reassessing their relationships. Insurance algorithms began generating risk assessments that made Crixian investments appear increasingly volatile. Trading platforms introduced minute friction that made large-scale Crixian transactions marginally more complex. The beauty of the human strategy lay in its subtlety. No direct act of aggression could be identified. No clear violation of interstellar protocols could be proven. Each intervention was so precisely crafted that it appeared almost coincidental. Crixian leadership conferences became increasingly tense. Senior executives and governmental representatives found themselves struggling to explain why their historically stable economic models were suddenly producing unpredictable results. "It's like trying to catch smoke," muttered Zarkex, the senior economic advisor to the Crixian Stellar Consortium. "Every time we think we've identified the source of the disruption, it shifts." Human diplomats maintained absolute calm. When questioned about the increasing economic instability affecting Crixian interests, they responded with meticulously documented reports that suggested complete innocence and profound concern. The strategy was multilayered. Economic disruption was merely the first phase. Simultaneously, human intelligence networks were collecting and analyzing every piece of data, building a comprehensive understanding of Crixian societal and economic structures. What the Crixian leadership didn't realize was that this was not just retaliation. This was a comprehensive assessment, a strategic deconstruction that would provide humans with unprecedented insight into alien societal mechanisms. No weapons had been fired. No direct threats had been made. Yet the Crixian civilization found itself facing a challenge more complex and subtle than any military confrontation in galactic history. The silent strategy was just beginning. The research facility stood as a monument to human curiosity and innovation. Located in a secure complex nestled between mountain ranges, it buzzed with an energy that defied traditional scientific boundaries. Dr. Michael Chen stood before a holographic display, his team of researchers surrounding him like planets orbiting a central star. Scattered across workstations were fragments of Crixian technology, pieces recovered from various sources, each one a puzzle waiting to be understood. Where other species saw impenetrable alien tech, these human researchers saw an intricate language waiting to be translated. "Break it down to fundamental principles," Dr. Chen instructed. His team moved with practiced precision, quantum scanners, and molecular disassemblers working in concert to deconstruct technologies that had been considered unbreakable by galactic standards. The Crixian weapon systems were marvels of advanced engineering. Quantum entangled particle cascades, gravity manipulation fields, interdimensional energy projection systems that could theoretically obliterate entire planetary surfaces. Technologies so complex that most galactic civilizations would spend decades studying a single component. Humans approached them like a complex musical composition, each system a note, each component a potential instrument in a larger symphony of understanding. Dr. Elena Rodriguez arrived, bringing with her a latest batch of recovered technology. Her background in technology and comparative systems analysis made her uniquely suited to this work. Where others saw barriers, she saw opportunities. The Crixian don't just build weapons, she explained to a junior researcher. They create complex ecosystems of technological interaction. Each system is interconnected, with fail-safes and adaptive responses we've never seen before. The team worked in shifts that blurred the lines between day and night. Quantum computers processed data at speeds that would have been impossible just a decade earlier. Machine learning algorithms developed specifically for alien technology analysis created models, tested hypotheses, and generated insights at an exponential rate. What emerged was not just understanding, but radical reimagination. A Crexian defensive shield generator, once considered impenetrable, was gradually transformed. Human researchers discovered that the shield's quantum entanglement could be subtly manipulated, not broken, but redirected, re-engineered to become something entirely new. Look at the energy cascade, one researcher pointed out. The holographic display showed how human modifications could turn a defensive system into an adaptive network that could anticipate and redirect potential threats. The Crexian had developed technologies based on principles of rigid defense. Humans saw those same principles as a foundation for something more dynamic, more alive. Weapon systems that were designed for absolute destruction were carefully studied, their fundamental principles understood, and then reimagined. A particle cascade weapon became a precision medical tool. A gravity manipulation field transformed into a revolutionary infrastructure development technology. Each breakthrough was meticulously documented. Each modification was approached with scientific rigor and an almost artistic sense of possibility. The galactic scientific community would have been stunned. These weren't mere technological adaptations. This was a complete philosophical reimagining of what technology could be. Dr. Chen looked at the latest prototype, a hybrid system that combined Crexian quantum principles with human adaptive networking technologies. It was beautiful in its complexity, terrifying in its potential. "We're not just copying," he muttered to himself. "We're evolving the very concept of technological interaction." Outside the facility, the mountain landscape remained unchanged. But inside, something revolutionary was taking shape, a technological symphony that would reshape understanding of what was possible. The Crexian had no idea what was coming. The communications center looked deceptively calm. Rows of specialists worked behind layers of quantum-encrypted interfaces, their fingers moving with practiced precision across holographic displays. This was not a traditional war room. This was a nexus of narrative manipulation, where information became the most powerful weapon. Dr. Sandra Kimura led the team, her background in cultural anthropology, linguistics, and advanced communication theory, making her the perfect architect of this delicate operation. The goal was not destruction, but strategic deconstruction of the Crexian societal narrative. "Identify the stress points," she instructed her team. Each specialist focused on a different aspect of Crexian social structures. Linguists analyzed communication patterns. Sociologists mapped cultural interconnections. Psychologists studied behavioral triggers. The Crexian civilization was built on a complex hierarchical system that valued stability above all else. Their society was a carefully balanced ecosystem of information, social credit, and collective decision-making. Humans saw this not as an impenetrable fortress, but as a complex system waiting to be understood. Carefully crafted information packets began to circulate through Crexian communication networks. These were not direct attacks or propaganda, but nuanced narratives that introduced subtle contradictions into the existing social framework. A research report that subtly questioned the efficiency of a long-standing governmental policy. A cultural analysis that highlighted internal inconsistencies in their social credit system. Economic projections that introduced microscopic doubts about established trade practices. Each piece of information was meticulously crafted, scientifically accurate, seemingly objective. Yet each carried undertones that would resonate differently with various segments of Crexian society. The communication specialists worked like master composers. They understood that information was not about volume, but about precise resonance. Each narrative was designed to create maximum impact with minimal direct intervention. Crexian communication networks began to experience unprecedented complexity. Discussion forums saw increased debate. Internal policy discussions became more nuanced. The rigid social structures started to show microscopic fissures. What made the human approach so devastating was its authenticity. These were not external attacks, but carefully constructed narratives that spoke to genuine complexities within Crexian society. Each piece of information was backed by verifiable data, making it impossible to simply dismiss. Cultural analysts mapped the potential spread of each narrative. Machine learning algorithms predicted how different segments of Crexian society would interact with these information packets. The team could track the evolution of each narrative in real time, making microscopic adjustments to maximize its potential impact. Dr. Kimura watched the holographic displays, observing how carefully constructed narratives began to ripple through Crexian communication networks. It was like watching a complex ecosystem respond to carefully introduced catalysts. "We're not breaking their system," she explained to a junior team member. "We're helping them see the complexity within their own structures." The Crexian leadership remained initially unaware. Their communication monitoring systems were sophisticated, designed to catch direct threats. But these were not threats. These were conversations, discussions, explorations of complexity. Generational tensions that had been suppressed began to surface. Policy debates became more nuanced. The Crexians' legendary social stability started to show microscopic cracks. This was not about winning a conflict. This was about creating space for genuine dialogue, for understanding, for evolution. The information battlefield was silent, but its impact would be profound. The negotiation chamber on the neutral planet of Consensus Prime stood as a testament to galactic diplomacy. Crystal walls reflected holographic displays, showing complex data streams and intricate political landscapes. The Crexian delegation entered expecting confrontation. What they would receive was something entirely different. Dr. Elena Rodriguez sat at the head of the human delegation, her presence calm and measured. Beside her, a team of specialists representing fields that extended far beyond traditional diplomatic boundaries. Economists, cultural anthropologists, technological innovators, and conflict resolution experts. The Crexian leadership looked tired. Their once impenetrable societal structures had been subtly challenged. Economic uncertainties, internal discussions, and the gradual erosion of their traditional communication networks had taken their toll. They expected punitive measures, complete economic isolation, or outright military action. "We have prepared a comprehensive proposal," Dr. Rodriguez began, her voice steady and clear. A holographic display came to life, revealing not a plan of punishment, but a blueprint for mutual transformation. It was so unexpected that the Crexian representatives momentarily lost their carefully maintained diplomatic composure. The proposal addressed multiple levels of interaction. Economic reconstruction, a detailed plan that didn't just restore Crexian economic stability, but proposed a new model of collaborative economic development. Human technology firms would work alongside Crexian economic specialists to develop more adaptive economic systems. Technological exchange. Instead of demanding reparations or restricting technology, the humans proposed a comprehensive research initiative. The destruction of the Nova Horizon Research Station would become the catalyst for a joint scientific endeavor that would push the boundaries of galactic understanding. Cultural dialogue. A series of exchange programs, collaborative research initiatives, and cultural understanding projects that went beyond traditional diplomatic interactions. These were not superficial cultural exchanges, but deep, systematic approaches to mutual understanding. Restoration and growth. A carefully crafted plan that acknowledged the Crexian loss while creating a path forward. The families of the researchers lost at Nova Horizon would be honored, and a memorial research station would be established as a symbol of potential rather than conflict. "This is not about punishment," Dr. Rodriguez explained. "This is about potential." The Crexian delegation struggled to comprehend the proposal. Every previous galactic conflict they had witnessed or participated in followed predictable patterns of retribution and power negotiation. This was something entirely different. Dr. Marcus Chen, the lead technological specialist, began to elaborate on the technical aspects of the proposal. Each point was backed by comprehensive data, showing not just the feasibility of the plan but its potential to create unprecedented opportunities for both civilizations. The proposal was designed with multiple layers of flexibility. It wasn't a rigid document, but a living framework that could adapt to emerging complexities. Each section included mechanisms for ongoing dialogue, continuous assessment, and mutual growth. What made the human approach so revolutionary was its fundamental perspective. This wasn't about winning or losing. This was about transformation, about turning a moment of potential conflict into an opportunity for collective advancement. The Chronicles leadership found themselves facing a choice that went beyond traditional diplomatic negotiations. This was an invitation to reimagine their entire approach to interspecies interaction. Hours passed. The negotiation was not about concessions but about discovering shared possibilities. Each discussion peeled back layers of misunderstanding, revealing potential for collaboration that neither side had previously imagined. As the first day of negotiations concluded, something fundamental had changed. The Chronicles representatives looked not defeated, but intrigued. Humanity had done something unprecedented. They had transformed a potential conflict into an opportunity for mutual growth. The real negotiation was just beginning. The Galactic archives on Zenith Prime housed the collective historical records of thousands of civilizations. Massive data crystals preserved millennia of diplomatic interactions, conflict records, and interstellar communication. Now they were being updated with something unprecedented: the human resolution of the Chronicles incident. Archivists from 100 different species gathered around quantum data interfaces, analyzing every microscopic detail of the human approach. What they saw challenged everything they understood about conflict resolution. The Vorlak delegation, who had previously presented humanity as a dangerously volatile species, now found themselves in an uncomfortable position. Their initial assessment had been catastrophically wrong. What they had portrayed as emotional instability was revealed to be a sophisticated, multi-dimensional approach to problem-solving. Dr. Lyra of the Quantum Confederacy research team began compiling a comprehensive analysis. Her tentacle-like appendages moved across holographic displays, tracing the intricate path of human strategy. Each layer revealed new levels of complexity that defied traditional galactic understanding. They didn't just resolve a conflict, she muttered to her research partner. They transformed the entire concept of conflict resolution. Diplomatic networks across the galaxy began to reassess everything they thought they knew about humanity. The initial narrative of humans as a primitive, aggressive species crumbled under the weight of evidence. What emerged was a civilization that approached challenges with a level of strategic depth that was both terrifying and fascinating. The economic models used by most galactic civilizations had been relatively static, based on predictable resource extraction and controlled expansion. The human approach demonstrated a dynamic system of interaction that valued adaptation over rigid control. Technological research teams began studying the human approach with intense fascination. The way humans had integrated Chronicles technologies wasn't just adaptation. It was a fundamental reimagining of technological potential. Systems that were previously seen as defensive were transformed into collaborative platforms for innovation. Cultural anthropologists discovered something even more profound. Humanity's approach wasn't just a diplomatic strategy. It was a reflection of a deeper philosophical approach to existence. They didn't see challenges as obstacles to overcome, but as opportunities for mutual growth. The Stellar Concordance, a loose federation of advanced civilizations, called an emergency session to discuss the implications. Representatives from various star systems brought holographic presentations, each attempting to understand the nuanced human approach. They'd done something unprecedented, announced the Quantum Confederacy representative. They've turned a potential conflict into a collaborative opportunity. Data streams showed how the human proposal had already begun to create positive cascading effects. The Chronicles civilization was experiencing internal reforms. Economic systems were becoming more adaptive. Technological research was accelerating. What made the human approach so revolutionary was its fundamental rejection of zero-sum thinking. Most galactic civilizations operated on principles of limited resources and competitive interaction. Humans demonstrated a model of interaction based on collective potential. The Zenith Prime Archives updated their records, adding a new classification for interspecies conflict resolution. Previous models had been based on military strength, economic pressure, or diplomatic compromise. The human approach defied existing categorization. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, watching from a distant communication center, understood something the other civilizations were just beginning to comprehend. This wasn't about proving human superiority. This was about demonstrating a different way of existing, an approach that valued potential over domination. Younger species throughout the galaxy began to study the human resolution. Academic institutions developed new courses exploring this unprecedented approach to conflict and cooperation. The Galactic Council found itself facing a fundamental reassessment. Humanity had not just resolved a conflict, they had introduced an entirely new paradigm of interspecies interaction. The universe was watching, and everything was about to change. The final diplomatic session convened in a chamber unlike any previous galactic gathering. Crystalline walls shifted with holographic projections, creating an environment that was part communication hub, part living artwork. Representatives from hundreds of star systems sat in a circular arrangement, with the human delegation at the center. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood, her presence commanding without being aggressive. Behind her, a holographic display began to unfold, not a presentation of data, but a narrative of human understanding. "We do not fear conflict," she began, her voice clear and measured. "We fear the unnecessary loss of potential." The display showed a tapestry of human history, not the violent moments typically highlighted, but the transformative ones, scientific breakthroughs born from moments of greatest challenge, technological innovations emerging from apparent destruction, cultural revolutions that arose from seemingly insurmountable differences. The Crixian lead diplomat, who had entered the chamber expecting continued tension, found himself leaning forward. The narrative unfolding was nothing like the aggressive human civilization they had been led to believe existed. "Conflict is not an endpoint," Dr. Rodriguez continued. "It is a complex system of interaction, of potential transformation." The holographic display began to show intricate connections, how economic challenges led to innovative solutions, how technological limitations sparked revolutionary thinking, how cultural misunderstandings created opportunities for deeper understanding. Technological specialists from various civilizations watched in growing fascination. The human approach was not about avoiding conflict, but about seeing conflict as a dynamic system of potential growth. Dr. Marcus Chen stepped forward, explaining the technological innovations that had emerged from their interaction with the Crixian. Each example showed how what could have been a destructive encounter had been transformed into a collaborative opportunity. The display shifted, showing the research station at Nova Horizon, not as a site of destruction, but as the birthplace of a new collaborative research initiative. The memorial to the lost researchers had become a symbol of potential rather than loss. "We understand something fundamental," Dr. Rodriguez explained. "Every challenge is an invitation to grow. Every conflict carries within it the seeds of collaboration." The Galactic Council representatives found themselves experiencing something unprecedented. This was not a diplomatic presentation. This was a philosophical revelation. The human delegation began to break down the very concept of conflict, not as a binary interaction of win or lose, but as a complex system of potential transformation. They demonstrated how their approach went beyond traditional conflict resolution. It was about creating space for mutual understanding. Linguistic specialists noted something remarkable. The human language itself seemed to contain grammatical structures that viewed challenges as opportunities. Their communication was inherently designed to seek collaborative potential. Cultural anthropologists realized that this was more than a diplomatic strategy. This was a fundamental approach to existence, a way of understanding the universe that saw potential in every interaction. The Crexian delegation, who had entered expecting continued tension, found themselves fundamentally transformed. What they had seen as a potential threat was revealed to be an invitation to reimagine their entire approach to interspecies interaction. As the session concluded, something fundamental had changed. The Galactic Council was no longer just witnessing a conflict resolution. They were experiencing a paradigm shift in understanding. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's final words hung in the air, a philosophy that would reshape galactic interaction. We do not seek to conquer. We seek to understand. We do not fear conflict. We see it as the most profound opportunity for growth. The universe listened, and everything was about to change.